We'll call the meeting to order of the new Firehouse Renovation Committee, which is replacing our Firehouse, the Firehouse Building Committee, which is replacing our Firehouse Renovation Committee for Company 2. There are no minutes to be approved because this is the first meeting, so we need to elect officers for the committee. There is a so appointed to the committee to date is myself, Craig Mansfield, Irene Haynes, who's on the phone, Kevin Ruddy, and Walt Parkus has been appointed as the alternate, is where we stand right now. So we do need to elect a chair.
I'll make a motion to
So
elect.
I would like to make a motion to elect Craig Mansfield, or to nominate Craig Mansfield as chair of the new Firehouse Building Committee.
Second.
So motion from Irene, second from Kevin. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. If the
Can I
group,
make another motion
yep, good.
to elect Walt Parkus as a permanent member of the new building?
So we
committee?
can't do that yet, Irene, because
Oh,
it has to go to town meeting tonight.
Oh, sorry, Walt.
Yeah, so great. So first of all, with the other officers, do we want to wait and elect the other positions when we have Walt in as a permanent member and, you know, a second member on? Or do we want to
Sure.
appoint tonight?
I think it makes sense to wait till after the town meeting.
Okay, so we'll table electing the remaining officers until after the town meeting tonight. And see what happens with that being approved.
Great.
So just to follow up on that for the public, if anybody's watching, or so at town meeting tonight, there is a proposal that was put forward by the Board of Selectmen to increase the membership of the committee to 5 members and 1 alternate. At that point, we would clearly make a motion to bring Walt over as a full-time member if that goes through. And then my understanding is there's only one other application that's been put in to date, which was at Blashick, so which would be a great addition to the committee. And then we could look for that alternate. So.
I think there was another one, Craig, but I'll check with Linda unless that person holds back their application.
Yeah, I just asked Linda a couple minutes ago, and that's what she told me. She had not gotten a second one from anybody.
Okay.
So,
All right.
all right, so on to, Ruth listed it as old business, but in theory, it's really new business because we are a new committee, but it is old business for us. So also on the town meeting agenda tonight is we are looking for approval of $400,000 through a special appropriation to continue to move this project through SDDD construction documents and the bid process, so, and get us there. There is a schedule, which you can't see, Irene, but Eric and Dave are in the room also and have brought a schedule of how they see that process going over 26 months. We also have and I'm just reading that on the top, we also have the original proposal that was provided by them on January 26th and revised on 1/31/25, which has not changed. It is Silver Petroselli's proposal, project number 22319, which shows a total of $588,251 for the total project from here on out, but that also included $194,000 of construction administration, which when we went to the Board of Finance, we explained we didn't need that money because that would be put into the bid and be bonded. So what we really needed to move this project forward and where we came up with the $400,000 was $223,535 in design documents, another $164,710 in construction documents, and then the bid assistance was $5,883. So that totaled, and I thought I had written that number down, but it comes out to 300 and something thousand. You can add it for us, Kevin? And so on top of the 400,000, we still have around 50 something thousand dollars left in the project from the original appropriation, which we explained to the Board of Finance that we needed to do the A2, T2 studies. It would go for environmental and those things. So the total request, the total project we're looking to agree for Silver Petrocelli is $394,128 is the dollar amount today. My thought is that I'd like to make a motion tonight to approve that we move forward with Silver Petrocelli for that amount pending approval of the budget tonight at the special appropriation at the town meeting.
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve the $394,128 to move forward.
Second.
Pending approval at the
town
hall meeting tonight. Second from Irene. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, perfect. So that will get us forward. What David and I were just talking about prior to the meeting kicking off is we have a current AIA agreement that's in place that started out as the renovation committee. It makes more sense for us to just amend that current AIA agreement and for this project, because it has in it all the things that were done already to get the project to where it is. So we'll look to amend that document and include all of the things that are now in this proposal from phase 1 and phase 2. And once we get that done, then we can sign it and move forward as long as the funds get approved tonight. So that'll be the plan to go forward. Do you guys want to take us through your timeline here, Eric?
Yeah, sure. I'll just give kind of an overview, and Eric can sort of jump in too. What you're seeing here is just sort of an overlap of time. It's not in a linear fashion. We're not there yet, but we wanted to sort of hit some highlights of each of those phases and some of the tasks and the duration of what those all take. So now that we we'll receive approval, get the contract amended, we need to bring on Benesh Engineering, who was on earlier on the project, for them to begin their piece of it, and along with our structural engineer to start talking about geotechnical engineering and so forth. Just want to point out, and just as a reminder, in our proposal that you just approved, the town was going to be hiring a surveyor, so that should get executed quickly. So that's in place, because that can, as we note, that could just take a few weeks to get on a surveyor's calendar. You know, they're usually booked 4 weeks out. So just as a reminder, that has to, sort of take place, along with anything that's happening with the well, septic, any other environmental pieces also hired by the town.
You were still going to get me the environmental RFP as an example?
Yes, yeah, and we could get you that in place, so hazmat.
So that we could put that out.
And you're all set with the survey piece though, right?
Yeah, the survey's not going to be a ton of money,
No.
so it's
Okay.
we don't need to go out to bid for it.
Great, so yes, we will do that. And then it's really just kind of walking you through some of the steps as we move along. And if Eric, if you want to just kind of go through as we typically move through. There's going to need to be some enhanced schematics where we last left off, and some more development, so take it away.
So where we last left off, I believe, and I also, just in case it's needed, I printed out some copies of that previous presentation.
Yep.
So we have some drawings for reference. But where we last left off, after we had just conducted the public information hearing, was kind of towards the end of schematic design, I would say, as to the level of detail that we were showing. We worked out generally program and, arrangement of spaces and things like that. And so as you can see on the schedule here, moving forward towards our next phase of design work, we're going to want to start finalizing that program and adjusting it towards, if there's any other adjustments that the committee would like to make.
Yeah, we'd like to lock in that plan
Yeah.
and start talking
Yeah.
about equipment, and, I
Yeah.
I think we're close, but it's sort of that final acknowledgement
Yep.
as we start
100%.
talking about equipment and building systems. That's probably one item here that we didn't fully lock into conceptually.
I mean, from a design point of view, layout point of view, I do not see us make any material change.
Okay.
Right?
I fully agree. I mean, it's
we've
been
agreed
vetted
and
and
vetted it.
signed off and
Great.
agreed.
You
and
know,
So-
that's why you can
Kind of
see it
blessed.
only was sort of a 2 or 3 week time frame to just
Yep.
scrub it one more time with this new committee.
Yep.
And then is there any other, are we taking this through even preliminarily, any other stakeholders,
Yeah.
building official, fire all those other
Mhm.
entities that always want to be involved early in the
Mhm.
process,
Yeah,
that
we
we
would-
could, just begin to have the
Yeah.
conversation to make a presentation to that we have not had the
So
opportunity.
Don's been here for every meeting, so that'll cover our fire marshal.
Yep,
And so we can surely regroup with him. There have been a lot of conversations with Jimmy Ventris on the land use side
Yeah.
already, especially as we investigated those other 2 properties. So, I think Jimmy is heavily involved and understands the project, so
Yeah.
that should be a fairly quick discussion also.
good.
So yes, the only other one that we probably have not engaged that we may want to think about is the health district.
I was gonna say, because,
Yeah.
I know we designated a pretty sizable chunk of space towards kitchen and kitchen equipment. If it's going to be commercial in nature, we will definitely want to coordinate with the health
With Chatham
department.
Health, so.
Yep,
Yeah.
So we could do that. I don't really think we have a true traffic
no,
interface, but if there's anything else that just needs to be done from the fire department side, that's why we kind
The only
of, if
thing-
applicable. I don't think there is, but
from a town point of view, if we,
with Public Works, do we need to talk
yeah,
about any
level
curb
the
cut
ramp out, curb
changes?
cut, right, you could have changed the flow of water into the roadway, we probably ought to revisit some of that.
Yeah,
just to
if
make
there's
sure.
other off-site improvements that Public Works wants us to may get morphed into this in
Mhm.
some way. Don't think there's really wetlands component there, but just anything else that just will be determined through whatever gets picked up by the survey.
Yep,
So that, as you can see, is just kind of onboarding the project and taking it from where it was to now and setting things up, but we're already in good shape. The design development piece of this, and this is where I think you guys are still, or the committee will maybe talk about the CM versus GC scenario in terms of estimating and, or at least a third-party cost estimate
Yep.
that you guys
yep,
we're talking about bringing in the same group that you used for this project. If you're gonna do that, the design development stage is that point in which you sort of pause and take a look at the drawings and look at the projected cost of where we are. That, in theory, is taking the project to a halfway point. So you're kind of, either look at it, you're half done or half incomplete, however you look at it. So we'd look for your approval there. And then on to really the final meat and potatoes of the project is the final construction documents.
Yeah.
With that, this is taking us probably about 4 months
Yep.
worth, to 5 months worth of time. And then bidding kind of depends on whether it's a GC bid or a CM bid, right? It's sort of how you guys navigate through that. And then construction is essentially a year to a year and a half, depending on procurement of switchgear and
mhm, generator,
and also just
demolition.
your demolition of the building and your moving,
Yep,
you know,
yep.
all of that. So, you know, that's kind of where we are. Right now, there's no winter shutdown. You would work through construction. If you notice on the last page, there's just some general thoughts. Schedule, it's gonna need to have some float in there for all that stuff.
Mhm.
And then whatever, right now, environmental is not assumed, don't know if that triggers anything more than just building abatement, but, so yeah, that's our first pass, not as a linear schedule to track, but more of what we perceive as action items that go along with a project of this scale.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, these are, to your point, right, there's overlap. This,
Yep.
we can start this design development phase while we're finishing up
Sure.
some of the top. So I'd love to try, you know, anything we can do to pull the schedule in, and that'll be on us working with you guys for sure.
Yeah,
I do think we probably need to give ourselves a little more time on the bidding phase.
yeah,
3 weeks is probably not enough. It'll be out for a couple weeks, open. I think we have a 14-day minimum on it. So it'll take a little while to get that done, but we can get things written up and ready to go. Again, to your point, depending on how we go. Yeah, so hopefully we can do some overlapping and pull this back in just a little bit.
How often is your committee gonna meet as an as-needed basis? Start at once a month, get into twice a month if needed? What's your,
I think
Which-
we're gonna let you drive that, I think.
okay,
Right? You guys should tell us
okay,
if this month, right, this stuff in this phase one, we'll call it, for the next 4 weeks, it probably has to happen, you know, in the next 4 weeks. And there's
Yeah.
not a lot of reason to meet for that to happen, but we get you the surveys back and all this stuff starts to happen, these kind of 0 and 1s together. I think in 4 weeks, you guys could still be working on this design development
Yeah,
at the
we-
same time,
right,
especially if we're willing to give you the commitment tonight that what you have is, right, where we're
Right.
going.
yeah, there's definitely some developmental things. The big thing that I think we're gonna have to work through is gonna be the MEP systems.
Yep.
To kind of lock in and present some of those options
Yep.
or considerations for you. You know, we talked about, we're not gonna be doing geothermal, so there's probably limited work in terms of the system choices, but we're gonna need to have our engineering.
And do we
make a
want to look
present-
at solar on the building, right? There's been a ton of comments at town meetings lately about our town buildings should all have solar on them. So I could see if we go, just my personal opinion, but if we go out and take this to a public hearing, it will be a question. So do we engage with a solar group to start to find, you know, where it's financed through them and it's not a cost to the town to start.
The Legion's doing that now.
Yeah,
Yeah, so knowing that's the place, we make sure the roof has the
Yep.
capacity for the solar panels. We then design spots within the switchgear and the electrical panel for all of that. And
Yep.
then, you know, then you have the solar that gets installed, either part of the project or they come in just at the tail end and do it
Mhm.
as other item. So,
Yeah,
as
that's-
opposed to you buying it and owning it.
absolutely. Yeah, I don't think we want to buy it as part of the project, but we probably should do our due diligence and look at it both ways.
Okay. Yep, well, we have an electrical engineer who, you know, spends a lot of his time kind of doing either or scenarios for municipalities all
Yeah,
across the
perfect.
state, so. Okay, so yeah, that's, you know, as a first draft of just our thoughts of how these type of projects come together, this is at least a first pass.
So from a bonding point of view, Irene, this puts us out about 4 months where we'd be done, 4 to 5 months we'd be done with bidding, we'll call it. So you're talking,
Yeah.
right, we are now in May, right? We're in May, so.
Yeah, so we're,
Yeah,
we're not gonna be
Mid-May.
starting, by the time we
October.
get everything
October,
out, you know, it's probably mid-June by the time our team would really even get started, because,
Mhm.
you know, now that we know that it's official, we could get our team lined up. And then from there, yeah, we're talking a very fast, you know, as 4 months is as quick as it could
Mhm.
come into play to kind of get things moving.
Yep.
And then, like you said, going out to bid,
Yeah.
and then starting construction, which you could really start construction anytime, but, you know.
Yeah, correct. It's more about getting getting the bid in place. We then have to do a town rep. We have to go through the dog and pony show again of a public hearing, town meeting, referendum, right? And then the bonding side of it.
Yeah.
Or the band, it sounds like they may ban this versus bond it.
Yeah.
So,
What would be helpful from our perspective is, we're talking about, you need us to help kind of guide the design discussion piece, is if you can kind of project out, like, how long some of those action items would take, and then we could give it some thought on how that gets built into the bid documents, the front-end bid documents that we help generate. So maybe that's something the committee could look at, is the linear path of your approvals.
okay. I mean,
All right, we can map that out in a calendar for you guys.
Right, yeah,
And
it's,
then the other funding thing I can do is do Hartford, but I'll talk to my bonding chair tomorrow and just say, you know, where in the timeline of a project can we bond? Because we're done as of June 4th this year, and then we don't go back into session until February of next year. But we do have special sessions that would come up. So depending on, you know, along our timeline where we could bond from Hartford, you know, I certainly won't not, you know, use that as an option. So I just have to see how it would fit in, that's all.
okay. And then you're having that third-party estimator is already on, ready to get queued up to even take a
Yeah.
look at the first pass plans that we get past item 0 and item 1. They'll
Yeah.
be able to start giving you some indications of numbers, and help create your soft cost list, you know, like builder's risk insurance and things like that.
Can we make sure we build in, and this is where, as we're planning out meetings, right, within both the design phase and the construction phase, can we make sure we have a, like, dedicated week in there for value engineering?
Yeah,
To look at, hey, at this point,
yeah, let's do that at design development.
yeah, but we should do DD, but we should also then revisit it at construction.
Yeah,
towards-
agreed.
Towards the
Yeah.
end of
Yep.
cities, yeah.
And with that, let's note that should also include discussions of add or deduct alternates.
Yep.
Yes.
So if we think that we're gonna wanna do some add alternates, the decision should somewhat be geared to do that early on.
Yep.
You know, for example, if we're showing metal, but we're thinking to go into asphalt, those are two totally different details.
Yeah,
So we could craft them early on as opposed to later. It's almost starting from scratch. So early on, if we know we're gonna be doing some of those type of things, it's gonna be much more cost effective than, you know, sort of additional design services for that later.
well, and that's
To
where
reverse engineer it.
we're also making early decisions around, we definitely want to build the building out for solar, may drive some of those decisions, right, in the
Yeah.
roof type we have.
Yeah. As you know, technology is always kind of that, all about the details between door hardware and card
Yeah,
access and security cameras and wireless access points and
Yep,
kind of who's providing all of that. So if we can, I'm not sure who's guiding those decisions.
the
or
security side I can guide
Okay.
and drive, similar to like I did in this building.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably bring, we can talk to Don, but I think we'll probably use Venture again,
Okay,
to come in to
Okay.
do this. They'll come in and strip the stuff currently in the firehouse, because they own that equipment today or installed it, so.
Okay.
um,
And then any systems, proprietary or non-proprietary, things that we potentially want to bid waiver and sole source.
Yep.
Knowing those sort of early
Yeah.
on, fire
Yeah.
alarm, you know, those.
Fire alarm,
Right, you
I'm
know,
also
those
thinking
all-
about the exhaust system,
Yeah,
right? We
that's
want to
huge.
stay standard across the other firehouse. So there clearly are things like that we'll want to talk about on the sole sourcing. And that becomes less of an issue if we go CM. Yeah, right,
Yes.
we just put it in the spec and it's up to them to go, we get a GMP and it's on them
Yeah,
to go bid it or find the vendor that meets our requirements, but if we are GC in it, then,
yeah, I mean, either if we know we're not accepting a substitution for a certain thing,
Mhm.
we have to just simply note that and say, here's what we're getting, and
yep,
it is, you know, it is what it is. So, as long as the committee you know, if that is the case for certain proprietary items, you know.
and I guess for me too, you guys build a lot of firehouses, right? This is not brain surgery for you guys, right? I mean, the layout may be a little different, the design may be a little different. I hope, you know, as we start to look at like 3 months for DD, we pull that in a little bit based on all you guys have.
Yeah, I mean, I think the intellectual knowledge is there, every building's a little different, so it still takes that.
It
But
does.
what we could show you and get you is, we're just finishing up two brand-new firehouses, one in Norfolk that's going out to bid with Newfield. Within the next 2 weeks, they're getting their town approval next week. Okay, so they already went through their town meeting,
Yeah.
they're getting their final approval, and then Newfield's going out to bid with that. The next one, which Eric is just finished up, is in Waterford, Oswegatchie Firehouse, which is 10,000 square feet.
Yeah, just over.
Yeah, and so that one is, so those two, very different architecture, very different shape, but you'll see mechanical systems, you'll see different tailpipe exhaust, you'll see some of the other amenities.
Yeah.
We could do a
Yep.
page turn and review those, and you may say, I want that from here, I really
Yeah, so-
want that from there.
Like when we start, where I think that becomes very helpful for us is when we start to talk about things like lockers, you know,
Kitchen.
bottle storage,
Equipment.
kitchen equipment,
Gear storage, I
gear
think.
cleaning,
Yeah.
all of that stuff, right? Why reinvent the wheel if you have vendors that are good, serving a purpose, and we can go look at, we take Brian, we take Ray, a couple guys go look at it, and, you know, work within, especially if you know you have good supply chain with those vendors, they have good quality work.
Yeah, we could, you'll see between the two projects, like, two totally different kitchens.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Opposite ends of the spectrum.
so even some are, yeah, both are very different. One doesn't have bunks, the other one
Gotcha.
has bunks. So you, as you say, they're all very different. The site is the site. Those are all, you know, those are
Yeah.
one-offs. But you will see, and the architecture looks
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
You know, one's pretty, the one in Waterford's on Post Road, pretty utilitarian. The one in Norfolk, it's in the design district, and the aesthetics probably, you'll see kind of a similar palette to yours, has a little bit more architecture to it.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
And I think also just, you know, talking about like general function of what's desired throughout the building, and preference on equipment and things like that, that's gonna be, I think, primarily where the bulk of the.
yeah, in the
discussion
finishes,
takes
you'll
place.
see.
And finishes.
You know, you're gonna see the different flooring, you'll see how we're, you know, kind of create a neutral palette that's not, you know, too overbearing and is sort of timeless. But what you're gonna get out of both of those by sometime in the end of the summer is a real bid number.
Which is great. Yeah,
So that kind of is gonna give us a little bit of a
And that's
litmus
ahead of
test.
our timeline, so
It
we can
is.
review that and then.
Yeah, so that may be part of that value engineering as
Exactly,
we
yeah.
see, oh boy.
Yeah.
Or, oh, we're in pretty good shape.
Do you guys ever go back and look at the products you've recommended and installed for longevity, wear, all of that, right? Like I think about this floor here, as an example.
I walk through this building every time and and look at things and learn
Yeah.
from what works and doesn't, because, you know, everybody says this is lifetime warranty or what,
Exactly.
right? It's like anything that doesn't have the same wear. So yeah, what we also do, and some clients entertain to do so, is a 11-month walkthrough, which is and an occupancy survey.
Yeah.
And what that does is it just gives you knowledge. And I think we even asked you guys to get electric rates, because we were trying to compare from an early energy model projection on what we thought the cost to operate the building would be to what it actually was. So yeah, we do that, so anecdotally we
Because
have
the firehouse is very different than the town office building, right? And how
Yeah.
things are gonna wear and where you need to put your money on flooring and all of
Floor and
that.
garage doors
All
are
of it,
critical.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
we
things
have
like that are gonna
our-
wear, they're gonna get abused,
Yeah.
but they're critical, right?
Yeah, there's a couple firehouses we could take you on tours of that are close to 15 years old, and you walk through and the LVT floor that was down there, that style floor,
Looks,
the marmoleum that was put down there is like the same as it was. There's no bubble. You see the different doors. What we're doing in Norfolk is we're doing something we've only done, hasn't been fully installed, but we have it in Bristol, is the bifold
The-
doors.
the bifold doors.
The committee, so we got that under budget and, you know, got it through. And the committee decided after bidding was already concluded, they pulled them from the project.
Yeah,
actually.
even though we got it on.
Yeah.
I think people were concerned, because we couldn't endorse, we never did it before, so we couldn't necessarily endorse
Yeah.
it. You look and you talk to you talk to all different departments across the country, and you see it's done all the time. In Connecticut, there's not that many.
I get
With the
very
weather,
nervous
I get-
about with the weather, snow, ice. It's one thing if you're doing it down south,
Right, up here, with you just don't know. what
get
you're-
it up and out of the way.
Right.
Which I think it's just more of a headache
Yeah.
anomaly versus just standard overhead, which, again, over time, they get
Yeah.
abused and stuff happens as it is.
Yeah.
But it's also the repair when something does happen to that door.
Yeah.
How quickly you can get repair parts to keep.
Yeah, and then,
They're not cheap.
standard over.
And they're not cheap in general, but I'm
Right.
assuming the folding doors, while they're fancy, may be quicker to open.
They're a little bit under half the time. So, I mean, it's roughly like 7 to 8 seconds of opening.
So you would hope that that would compensate and have less incidences of
Well, that's
people
the,
pulling out
that's,
before
that's
they're
the,
open.
that's
Things
the
like that,
positive
but-
of it.
Yeah.
Now, it does have, the motor is fairly simple,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
mean, all it is just an articulated arm that just takes a bifold door and opens and closes. So it's
pretty
really not
compact.
sophisticated
Yeah.
technology. I mean, it's no different than a motion of a chain motor
Yeah.
that you have over an overhead. It does free up from sprinklers and other things up
Yeah.
above.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it is
true.
kind of nice when you have a lower.
There's just spatial considerations on the sides of your openings now, you know, if a guy's pulling in the truck, he's
You lose
more.
a couple feet
more-
coming in.
Yeah, you lose a few feet coming in, and you may be more at risk towards backing in. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. All right, so I don't mean to,
Nope, we're
push us
good.
along,
Yep.
but, so, on our side, we will kick off the A2, T2 survey.
Yep.
I'll talk to Newt tomorrow and get that kicked off. You'll send me, an RFP for the soil testing so we can get that out
Yep.
and kicked off.
And has the building testing, was that already done? Did he already have some of that? Did he test the building itself for hazardous material? Was there ones that was required to be done? I mean, the schools,
Yep.
you have to do it, but I don't know if there was ever.
I don't think there's anything in that building that,
There may not be, but you know, you gotta either presume like,
Yeah.
if, you know, you probably just need some guidance on whether you presume that it already is and just
I was
demolish
to
it.
say some guy didn't have a bucket of mud, and that's what's under the floor in the bathroom. you know.
Right, or,
Yeah.
you know, or caulking,
I know how to get, it's cheaper
Yeah.
to put
But
it
it was
there
built
than
in
it
the
is to be to
80s.
try to dispose of
there's
it.
still,
There was
even
some
though it was
Yeah,
deregulated, there were
yeah.
still levels of, and even if it's below the threshold, you still have to acknowledge
Yeah,
that it has
yeah,
a
yeah.
level of threshold.
Yep.
So, this is just where you need a
We should make
consultant
it part
to
of our
then-
consultant to go through and part of that RFP.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. And then you guys will work on the, you know, we're in agreement that we're locked into the design at this point, and so you can start moving forward, get your teams
Okay.
together.
Great.
You'll owe me the amended
Yeah, that'll be
AIA.
pretty, that shouldn't take long to do so. It could be, I'm off next week, but
Me
I
too.
will see as much as I'm not sure I'll be able to get to that this week, but I can try to get something
Okay,
in motion.
but it's not gonna stop you guys from,
No, we have
Moving forward.
you know, essentially.
as
we
long
have
as
enough
we
to
get this
get our
money
team-
approved in the next
Yeah.
15 minutes. so.
Yeah, so, okay. Yeah,
And then, once we'll plan a month, right? That gives us the time to get that done, hopefully Nuke can get the survey done.
okay,
If we need to meet before that, then just reach out, but I'll have Ruth try and find a time for sometime early June.
okay, yeah.
Anything else?
No, and just look at your calendar with your other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Kevin? Second? Irene, you still there?
Yep.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you,
everyone.
we'll see you at the high school. We'll see you in a minute.
I don't know if I can vote.
All right, bye-bye. You don't know
It's
why?
at the high school?
I don't know if I can vote being an alternate. No.
Oh, tonight?
No.
You're an
Right, like
alternate,
this
right?
meeting right now, I'm an alternate.
Oh, no, you
I
can't.
can't,
right
that's what I
now,
said,
no.
that's why I don't say anything.
Yeah, yeah. You got both of these?
Not like I want.
All right, thank you. Do you need me to come up there or not?
Okay.
Yeah,
It's up to you guys if you want to come. I don't expect a lot of issues. I think honestly, hopefully, we're stacking the room enough
Right.
with the fire department that it's not going to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last time it didn't go, it got a little
So.
testy.
I missed that one. I was sitting on the beach in Hawaii while you guys.
sounds nice.
I missed you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so